Good evening and welcome back to the Mic Check podcast. You are now live with your man Quinton, aka Right on Cue. I'm live in location with Jeff Miles, one of my best friends in the world, man. Really appreciate having you on tonight, man, to get to talk some Gridiron news, talk some NFL draft, and some other things, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I've been waiting to talk some football, man. I've been going through withdrawals since Super Bowl. I don't know what to do with my life.
Right. And as y'all can tell, is a Washington Commanders fan. You see all of his paraphernalia and everything there. So we are definitely going to get into some Washington Commanders draft news and what he thinks his team should do this coming season to try to get back into playoff contention where they should be, as he would believe. So thank you, everybody, number one, for joining. Make sure that you follow all of the following links below. You see my ad tag. And Jeff, go ahead and let them know where you can be found on social media before we get started.
For sure. You can find me on Instagram at jefe.miles. That's Jefe as it's spelled right here. Jefe.miles. That's on Instagram. Jeff Miles Jr. on Facebook. Nothing else really matters. Oh, awesome. My art. I am an artist, so you can follow my art on themilescollective.com.
Yes, Jeff is actually an awesome artist. He's great work that I actually have some of, from clothing to actual framed artwork. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can definitely look him up for that as well.
Man, your boy got it tatted on him too.
Yes, sir. That too. There you go. Tattoo art as well, for sure. Jeff is the guy to go to. Anybody that asks me, that's what I'm going to tell him. But anyway, man, I mean, for those that don't know, Jeff and I have gone back damn near over 10 years now. And anybody that knows he and I's relationship knows that we've had many debates and conversations about sports, whether it's basketball, football, or anything else. So getting to do this here is something that we've just continued from off screen, off the air. So this is going to be really cool to get to have you on, man. And I really appreciate you coming on tonight. The first topic that we're going to address, man, is going to be the ramifications and just the grand scheme of what this year's NFL draft is going to bring, not only just in general when we talk about just the quality players across the board, regardless of position, but specifically talking about the quarterback position. And you guys know where we're going. We're talking about some of the best quarterbacks that arguably could be coming into the league, and some that we're really looking forward to seeing. When you talk about C.J. Stroud, you talk about Bryce Young, you talk about Levis, the kid from where is he from? What school does he go to? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now.
I think it's Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky. Thank you. As well as a surprise in Anderson, the kid from Florida, who had a really good combine and really showed well. So, Jeff, the first question here, man, is what do you think? Do you think that this year's NFL draft will bring in the next crop of young, great quarterbacks?
Honestly, I mean, we hype up QBs every single year, right? It's really hard to tell if they're actually going to be something. Maybe one or two might be something down the line. It's going to be hard to find that Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, even Tua last year before he got his head rattled. It's hard to say right now. I have some people that I like that I think will do well, but it's hard. It's too early. It's too early.
Naturally, for sure. And I mean, the one thing for me, man, I will say is that it seems like this year, the quarterbacks that we've gotten really all seem to have had a lot of experience against high-level competition. And that's the one thing that I think is really unique, because when you have a quarterback that plays in college, a lot of times the adjustment that they have to make, that I've heard from a lot of quarterbacks, the transition into the NFL, is that it's more difficult because people are less open. Because they're naturally playing against the best of the best. Well, the top two quarterbacks, when we talk about C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, have both had a great opportunities to play against some of the very elite when it comes to NFL defenses, when you talk about the Big Ten and you talk about the SEC. So how well do you think that those two guys, when you talk about C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, are going to be prepared for the NFL game based on the competition they faced in college?
I think competition is the key word. As you see on the screen, they're mocking them to the Panthers, to the Texans, I like personally, I like Will Levis. But we could talk about that later. You see those two teams at the top, the Panthers, the Texans, who's in that division. We're not really looking at Super Bowl contenders in those divisions, so that might actually work out great for them. From going from Alabama and going from Ohio State, top-ranked college teams, going to a division that's in the NFL that's not necessarily on the same level as the NFC West, AFC West. You know what I mean? So
sure.
Right now, I think whatever QBs go to the Texans and the Panthers, I think they're getting a lot better than, say, if you go to the Raiders. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just pulled that out. If you go into the Raiders, you're gonna have some hard times ahead of you. That division is stacked, and you gotta face Patrick Mahomes for the next at least 8 years.
Yeah.
So I think competition-wise, Ohio State and Alabama has seen the best of them. So we haven't really seen a lot of great QBs from those two schools, because those college teams have great head coaches and great systems where they don't have to be the best. They just have to be, good. Right. And we're seeing that kind of now with Justin Fields, where even the Bears picked Justin Fields first round. They traded up to get him. Did they trade up to get him? I'm pretty sure they did.
I think so, yeah.
And even now, they were thinking about taking the number one spot. It was in discussion. Yeah. So, so I think that's about it for that.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, man, I think the thing that makes these two guys different to me is that these two guys both come from great high school programs where they won a lot. I would know because they're both from Southern California.
Of course.
Both of these guys, you see how I had to throw that in there. There you go. Both of these guys went to premier programs where they were, stacked behind better and highly touted quarterbacks as well. And guess what they did? They proved that they were the guy that needed to be in there. And then both of those guys played in their best and the best moments, in the highest peak moments where everybody's watching. And everybody knows where we're going. We're talking about the college football playoff. We're talking about SEC and Big Ten championship games. Both of these teams and both of these quarterbacks, I should say, are as well prepared as you can be from the college game when it comes to training into the NFL. So I believe that both of those two guys for sure are guys that I can see being amongst the top half of the league when you talk about starting quarterbacks. I don't know if that's going to be during their rookie season. I believe that in the right system and with the right coaching, both of these guys can thrive, not only just because of their natural talent, but because of the fact that they've been well-groomed for this, and they had a chance to be tested against some of the best defenses in college football. Just in general, and it's something that you mentioned as well that I really think is a great point, is where you go. And you talked about the divisions that both of those two guys potentially could be in. This is a Yahoo Sports NFL mock draft that does include the fact that the Bears have traded down, which essentially tells me that they are convinced and happy to continue with Justin Fields moving forward. And they're going to try to address some other needs that may help Justin Fields to see what they have with him while he's still on that rookie deal. Both of those guys going to divisions where, quarterback talent is severely lacking. I mean, you talk about, C.J. Stroud, if he goes to the Panthers, I mean, Atlanta is still trying to figure out what they're going to do. Tampa just signed Baker Mayfield, which we all kind of know where he's at as far as a talent level is concerned in the NFL. And then you talk about the Saints that just signed Derek Carr, which is, to me, it's not a Band-Aid. It's not a Geno Smith move like the Seahawks have done, but it is not a long-term plan if you're talking about a guy that's going to get you over the top, in my opinion. What's your thoughts
It's
on
a
that?
one playoff win team, max. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and that's fair, man. I mean, Derek Carr is, and you guys are going to see this because we're going to talk about it, the top 10 quarterbacks. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys my list, and then Jeff is going to get to dissect and give his thoughts. But I think that Derek Carr has gotten a little bit too much flack for the performances that he's put on or lack thereof. He's been injured in some key moments when, they were making playoff runs and he wasn't able to play. But ultimately, I mean, when you look at the grand scheme of things, there's not going to be a whole lot of quarterbacks that you're going to prefer to have over him. And to me, he kind of fits that Alex Smith role a lot, which obviously Jeff would know very, very well from Alex Smith playing with the Commanders. He's a quarterback that's good enough to get you to the playoffs, good enough to win you maybe a game or two, but then he's going to need the rest of his team to do the rest if they're going to make it any further than that. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic, man. And ultimately, the next topic is one of the most hot topics out, man. I mean, it is something that – go ahead, Sar.
No, you're good. I just I wanted to loop back because I don't think we're going to go back to it. I like Levis. I think Levis is a sleeper.
Why?
And,
tell the fans why, man. Why do you find
he fits that? He fits that quarterback that nobody's really talking about. He is mocked the top 10, but he's not mocked number 1.
Right.
And in my mind, I think about Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. Not that they're similar in game, but they're sleepers. Nobody's talking about them. People are sleeping on this kid's arm, his accuracy, his athleticism. Now I know he got injured, but if he goes to a team like, I'll say, all right, the Colts. Now, the Colts they have a lot of work to do, a lot. Right. But just like I said earlier, that division, Titans without Derrick Henry, out of here. Jacksonville, they'll be decent. You know, they'll be decent. That's gonna be some good games. Right. Texans, be real. You know, like Texans could be something in maybe 2-3 years with D'Amico Ryan, right? Right. Levis going to a franchise that is in need of a quarterback in a weak division, look out. I promise you, look out.
Yeah.
It's like Mac Jones going to the Patriots now. He's not the best. The Patriots. He's not the best quarterback, but he got 10 wins that first year, his rookie year.
Yeah.
You know, so I could see Levis getting, if he's the starter, I could see that happening.
Great thing, man, is that if Levis does, fall down the draft board, what typically happens for quarterbacks that fall? They go to great or better teams. They go to better teams that are well prepared and better prepared to win now in that player's rookie first and second season. And sometimes that's how things work out. Yeah, I mean,
the Lions.
you got a lot of great options, man. You're talking about the Lions. You're talking about possibly the Steelers. You're talking about possibly the Tennessee Titans. You're talking about a lot of teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack that probably could take a chance on him that maybe becomes a better fit for him because those are teams that are better prepared around him. Instead of him having to lift those teams up, they will prop him up and just allow him to be just who he is. He doesn't have to grow into being something more than what he is. Absolutely. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Next topic, obviously, is going to be something that's, been hitting the news and the rumor mill really, really hard recently, and that's Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has been going through a contract dispute for what seems like ages now. It seems like he was going to get a deal since before Deshaun Watson got his deal from the Cleveland Browns. So we're talking, over a year now that, this whole dispute has happened. I do have a clip that I want to go ahead and play first. We're going to play about a minute or two of this clip. This is from First Take. We'll get their thoughts on what initially has been broken. Story came out that Lamar finally publicly spoke, and then we'll go ahead and get our feedback as well.
Lamar Jackson tweeting just moments ago, in regards to my future plans, as of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization for which the Ravens has not been interested in meeting my value. Any and everyone that has met me or been around me know I love the game of football and my dream to help a team win the Super Bowl. Are great, but I had to make a business decision that was best for my family and I. No matter how far I go or where my career takes me, I'll continue to be close to my fans of Baltimore Flock Nation and the entire state of Maryland. You'll see me again. Truz. Let's stay connected. Subscribe to my fan page. All right, so breaking news into First Take.
All right, there we go. So news breaks just a couple of days ago that Lamar has officially some news back at the early part of March that he has requested a trade, which obviously the Ravens have not been willing to oblige him on. And during that same period of time that he requested the trade was when I believe they decided to go ahead and issue the franchise tag, which he has not signed yet. So initial thoughts just on the whole situation as it stands, Jeff, and then we'll go ahead and get into some particulars about what we think he should do moving forward.
Man, it's a dicey situation. I think Deshaun Watson pretty much messed it up for everybody. In terms of expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deals and expectations is unheard of that a guy can go 2 years without playing and just get a fully guaranteed contract in a new scheme and just be like, we trust him. Wow. And I think Lamar Jackson knows his style of play. He's afraid to get injured. Really injured, not like, oh, I got an ankle, I'm not about to, do that. And he wants his money. It's a dicey situation because he doesn't have a real agent and he has to negotiate. I think his mom is doing it as well.
Yeah.
It's a dicey situation. How it's kind of like, the two button heads, who's going to win? It's Aaron Rodgers and the Packers all over again, except he's younger,
Okay. Well, I mean, my take on it, man, is that, I kind of correlate this to a romantic relationship. When you are dating somebody and expectations of these things that they would like to do in the relationship, and you start to not do things around the times that they may expect them, whether you're talking about further commitment or moving in or getting or having or whatever that may be, the longer that you put those things off for the person you're in a relationship with, the more resentful they become towards you naturally, right? They start to question, okay, well, is it something you don't like about me? Is there something that you don't want with me? Is this really something that you're fully bought in? Are you convinced that I'm your best option? I'm the right person for you? And I think that that's a very similar stance that Lamar is in at this point, because he could have easily been signed before his contract was up. They easily could have signed him last season when he played under the franchise tag. They easily could have offered him something immediately after the season was over. And yet they're still trying to go ahead and put him on another one-year deal, knowing that he's a quarterback that if he gets injured, they're going to walk away from the situation scot-free and not have to pay him a dime past this season. So I think it's one of those takes where, man, I think he has to look out for his best interest based on the position he's in now, because if he takes a hometown discount or he takes 50 cents on the dollar for what he's worth on the market, on the open market, I should say, he sets the precedent for what those teams will do moving forward to other quarterbacks that are going to be coming behind him. But the main question, man, is what do you think he should do now moving forward as far as he's requested the trade? It's obvious he doesn't want to go back to Baltimore. Where are some teams? That's actually the question I wanted to get to. Where are some teams that you think he should be looking to get traded to? Where are some great options that you think he would fit in well at?
Man, I've been itching for this one because in terms of why he's doing what, people do their own things for their own reason. It's a different league now, and people. It's do you want your money or do you want to win a Super Bowl? Because we could put that money into better players. You've been asking for receivers for your entire career.
Sure,
we could put that money into top receiver. We could trade assets to get a better O-line for you. You don't have to only throw to Mark Andrews the whole time. So it depends on, like, the team wants to win a Super Bowl. The player wants the money, the guaranteed money, because he knows his style. He knows he can get injured. So that's up for debate. The teams, I already mentioned one of them. I know if Lamar Jackson, of course, healthy, goes to Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Oh my God. That boy, Amon-Ra St. Brown,
yeah,
and DeAndre Swift, and I love the head coach, man. I love the head coach. Was it Dan Campbell?
Dan Campbell, yeah,
yeah. To see how much they have transformed, and they didn't even go to the playoffs last year.
No, fell a game short, I believe. They had a chance to go to the playoffs, but they missed it by a game.
And they won that last game to knock Aaron Rodgers out.
Yeah.
So, like, I think they lost, like, they were like 1-7 or something like that.
Yep.
And now only one game,
I believe. They won like 8
that
straight.
one game was against us, and they mollywopped us. Not to say that we're good, we're great, but, like, they destroyed us, and then we saw them win 8 straight games, just to finish the season. They're scary. You put Lamar Jackson on there with a dual threat running with DeAndre Swift, and did they just get Miles Sanders? No, the Panthers got Miles Sanders. But, you got a dual threat with DeAndre Swift, Lamar Jackson, and then you got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Nasty. Another fit I'm liking, and a lot of people are mocking them too, is Atlanta. Okay. They just picked up a great backup in Taylor Heineke. I know, if Taylor Heineke can get us eight wins.
Right.
You know, that's a great backup. You know, you put him. They just got Drake London. They just got Kyle Pitts. And who's a sleeper player for them? Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, Cordell Patterson's a good player, man. He's
Nasty. So I think the reason why I pulled up the Lions initially is because, one, they have the draft picks to do it. They have 2 first-round picks this year, so they can waste one this year and still have a first round. So it's smart for them to do that. You get your QB, send Goff to Baltimore, which Ravens would like, a nice bridge quarterback just to see where they're at. And I think Goff he'd be Goff in Baltimore. You know, that doesn't really hurt them as much as it would going with whoever they're Huntley. You know, I think Goff would be the same as Huntley. Those are my 2 favorites for him. I wouldn't really like him with the Colts. I don't think anything. Him and Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor is nasty. He didn't really surprise me last year. But he didn't really have a great team behind him. But I think Detroit is my number 1 for Lamar, and then Atlanta.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, man, I think, in my opinion, this is just pie in the sky. And Atlanta was going to be the first place I said, and I'll add something to the reason I think that Atlanta is a great fit. When you talk about culture, and you talk about a fit from a cultural standpoint, man, I mean, Ray Lewis fit like a glove with the Ravens, right? Because of the culture, because of his personality, because of his leadership style. He embodied what being a Raven was about. When you talk about Atlanta, man, you're talking about Michael Vick 2.0. Not that he can be as good as Michael Vick, not that he's the same player as Michael Vick, but when you talk about a guy who can electrify a crowd, put butts in seats, when you talk about from an entertainment value standpoint, and somebody who's just built to match that culture standpoint, when you talk about Atlanta, man, it's a perfect fit, in my opinion, when you talk about Lamar Jackson with the Atlanta Falcons. No, they're not going to have the most talented team. No, they may not have a whole bunch of weapons when you talk about on the offensive side of the ball. They may even probably have some serious offensive line issues. But when you talk about just pure excitement and box office, that would be a great fit for him. But I'm going to throw a sleeper at you. Now, I don't think that this is going to happen just because of the sheer dynamics between the coaching staff, the GMs, and how good the team has already been, and the fact that they have 2 quarterbacks who, in my opinion, are both backups, but they're going to end up starting one of them. I'm thinking seriously about whether or not the 49ers should take a look at him. You want to talk about a domino effect on the NFL, man. If the 49ers were willing to give up the reins on the offense being centered around whatever it is that kind of is already cooked up for the quarterbacks he's had, they flex some things and make it kind of suited to what Lamar Jackson does. Them trading whatever draft picks and draft compensation plus a Trey Lance, maybe you even have to throw in a weapon or 2 from the offensive or the defensive side to go along with the fact that they would be getting Lamar Jackson. I think that immediately makes them a serious Super Bowl favorite in the NFC. What's your thoughts, man?
Of course. Of course. That, yes, that they'd be Super Bowl favorites. I get it. Can they afford to? I think they have too many stars to pay. Trent Williams, McCaffrey, Fred Warner.
Some of those guys are going to have to go in that trade. Some of those guys are going to have to go in that trade.
Nah. How many stars you giving up? I think
I don't know.
Trey Lance, Ayuk, and some draft picks would
be the best case scenario for the 49ers. But if the 49ers have to take a hit, and let's say they had to give up trade compensation, let's say they had to give up Deebo Samuel, are you really going to tell me that they wouldn't do it? Are you going to tell me they're going to hold on to Deebo Samuel to keep Trey Lance?
Here's the thing. The Ravens will want Deebo and something. The 49ers are going to be like, this is Deebo Samuels.
Right.
You get Deebo in like a 7th, maybe. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think the disagreement is going to be on the compensation. Not to say that wouldn't be nasty. If that happens, obviously they're a favorite to win a Super Bowl. Obviously. But the compensation is going to be like, why wouldn't the Jets be doing anything to get Aaron Rodgers? Well, the Packers think he's worth more. It's a compensation thing that is growing in the NFL right now that like our guy's worth this much. Well, you're wanting Debo and more? Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yes, ideally that would be beautiful. But I just think there would be a disagreement on the compensation. That'd be scary.
Yeah. And the one thing that's funny about this situation is that, the 49ers have had so much success with minimal execution when you talk about from the quarterback perspective. Man, I mean, if they had a decent quarterback, which we're going to go into that now, talk about the top NFL and who we think actually ranks in the top 10. I mean, if they had any of the guys that we're going to mention here, I mean, we're talking about, possibly the starting of a dynasty. But that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, man. I guess you can't have everything in life. But if they were able to get a trade done for Lamar Jackson, I think they would have a lot of attractive people that the Ravens would be happy to take off. And I don't know, I didn't throw this out there to you, but we've talked about it off air. I mean, what are your thoughts on potentially the Commanders from capital to try to come to DC?
I don't get my hopes up, man. don't give me dreams. No, in terms of our situation, man, I've seen worse rookies with us. I've always been an advocate of letting rookies learn, whether it's learn what to do or learn what not to do. Most of the great quarterbacks now have learned, except for Burrow, stud. Everybody else has sat behind somebody at some point, right? Patrick Mahomes had a full year, learned behind Alex Smith. Lamar Jackson sat behind Flacco. I'm really up for that. This kid Howell, he had a situation where he saw what not to do every week. And he earned a shot. I like him. He's a dog. He showed me that he could beat a number one defense, Cowboys, by 20 points when they're fighting for a first seed.
Yeah,
I like the grit. And you truck Trayvon Diggs to get in the end zone. I like that. Now, obviously, I'd rather have Lamar Jackson. Obviously. That's not a question. Obviously. In order to do that, we need to have money. We don't have money. We don't have any money, and we're using all the money we have right now to retain the good players we have. Now, we could trade some pieces away. If we trade away, we probably would have to trade away somebody on our defense because there's only one person that's a Pro Bowler on our offense, and this boy. And if we give away McLaurin, DC will riot. There will be no, but we have Lamar. No, who is he going to throw to? You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. We have other pieces. Dotson is a nice. He did nice last year. But my point is, we would love to have him. We don't have the money to pay him and retain a good team. He'd have the same complaints here as he does in Baltimore. We need to beef up our offensive line, which we're trying to do. But we get injured. We're one of the most injured teams in the NFL every year. So I feel like he'd have the most complaints. It'd be great. We'd have some great plays. Might take me back to my RG3 2012 days where I was, felt good. I might have some, hopes of getting some playoff wins, but it's a dream that reality hits and we hit the news every week and it wakes me up and I'm like, yeah, this is our franchise. And I would love it to happen. I don't think it will.
Fair enough. So that's where we'll leave that topic for there. Kind of transitioning into some of the top quarterbacks in the NFL and kind of where we see Lamar Jackson, because there were some rumors going around when he started to initially have his issues tomorrow that there were a lot of teams that were not takers that possibly should have been takers when it comes to wanting or being willing to trade for him. Here's a list that I made. This is my top 10. This is not Jeff's top 10. Jeff is going to have a chance to critique it, but this is my top 10 of who I think currently stands as some of the best NFL QBs, top 10 listed there. So where do you think your thoughts are about where I have Lamar currently? I've got him at number 7. I got the list for those who can't read it if it's a little too small there. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, and Derek Carr. That's my top 10. You can go ahead and give me your thoughts initially on the list and then just kind of where you see Lamar and do you think that he should be moved up or down?
First of all, so this is like the order. This is what you're going with.
Yep, that's
okay.
That's the order.
So I would personally, I put Josh Allen above Hurts.
Okay.
I
figured that's the first one you were going to go to.
No, I think I love Hurts. He's a great kid, great athlete, strong arm. You know, he's proven himself. I think Josh Allen has proven himself more. Just because he hasn't gone to the Super Bowl doesn't mean that he's not a better quarterback. You know, Aaron Rodgers was a 2-time, back-to-back MVP, right? Oh, no. He went back-to-back. Was he back-to-back? I don't remember. But so that's my first discrepancy. I think Lamar is better than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had a good year last year.
Okay.
But hold on. So did Mark Sanchez.
Okay.
Let's bring it back a little bit.
So let's divide that then, because
you broke up. I can't hear you. Well, until Q get back, this the Hefe show. No, I'm joking. I don't know what happened to Q. I think he had a connection issue. He shall be back. But y'all put down in comments what y'all think about the list so far. The list so far. I think that it was a pretty good list. Pretty good list. I'll wait for Q to give my opinion on the rest of the list. I think I'll just elaborate on what happened so far. Trevor Lawrence, he has shown, sparks of being great. A lot of quarterbacks have, thrown great in their first 2 years. Tebow almost went to the Super Bowl and then fell off. I just took over while you were.
He took over the show. He held it down for me. My bad,
it's all good. But I don't think Tebow is a great quarterback. I'm just saying, like, they went to the AFC Championship and then fell off. So I think it's a little too early. I was just explaining my positions on my previous things. I was saying fair. just because Trevor Lawrence won the division and went to the playoffs, I don't think he's better than Lamar. Lamar's an MVP.
Yeah, and I guess that's the one thing that I was trying to explain right before we got cut off there. I do apologize to everybody watching. Bad internet connection in here, but ultimately the debate is, where do you see these guys being ranked based on what they currently did this past season versus where they are in general as far as accomplishments in their career? And that's where I kind of went with this. Was I kind of stayed toward the first option, which was how these individuals performed in their very last season, as it currently stands moving into this coming season. I think Patrick Mahomes has been the guy for the last probably 3 or 4 years, clearly the number one. I think the next 4 guys between 2 and 5 have all interchanged. Jalen Hurts kind of took a steep, step up up this lane here this past season based on his performance. But definitely speaking, I mean, when you talk about just off of accomplishment, if we're talking about for a career, I mean, I would be having Aaron Rodgers at number 2 if that's what we were talking about. Okay.
In that case, Derek Carr doesn't make my list.
Okay.
He just doesn't make it. I think other quarterbacks. I think in the 10th spot, I'm putting Geno Smith. This past, if we're just judging on this past year,
okay.
I think he's earned that. He took a Seattle team where everybody thought they were just going to be tanking, and did they make the playoffs?
Yeah, they did. They made the playoffs in Niners first round.
Yeah, so I think Geno deserves to be up there. Now, if he didn't get injured, and obviously it's because he has weapons, but Tua shows some heart, but
yeah,
I don't think he remembers what team he plays on right now. So
yeah, I mean the guys we're talking about that are off of this list are the guys that you think should be off of this list. When we talk about Derek Carr, we talk about and you haven't mentioned them, but when you talk guys like Dak Prescott, you talk about guys like Geno Smith, you talk about guys like even Kyler Murray. You start getting into that middle ground of quarterbacks between 15 and 20, 10 and 15. All of those guys are kind of interchangeable. They're difficult to slice between. This past season makes a clear-cut answer for me, but I can definitely roll with you on having Geno Smith. That is one of the next guys I would have wanted to have on this list, and I guess that's kind of the reason why I can agree with you on that. So when we talk about Lamar Jackson, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's a top 10 quarterback that is available, essentially, because he's made it publicly clear that he's not going to be going back to Baltimore. And if he does step down from his stance, then, it's going to make him look like a liar, to be honest, because of all of the things he's done and said publicly. So I don't know, man. I think ultimately, they're going to have to trade him. I mean, I think it's going to end up being a situation where he may have to sit out some games. He may have to take a couple of fines to prove that he's serious about not playing. But once they realize it, man, I think they're going to have to try to get rid of him because they know that at the end of the season, he can walk for nothing and they get nothing in return unless they're willing to trade him to a team that wants him this season. So that's where we'll leave that, man. And we are going to move on to probably the most important topic of the night for Jeff. And that's going to be, man, talking about where we think his Commanders are going to go when it comes to the draft this year. A lot of varying options. And Jeff and I talked about this not too long ago. We talked about this in person, actually, last time we saw each other. But where do you think your team needs to go with these picks? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks currently. Obviously, they could do some trades to get more draft compensation this year. But with it as it stands, let's just talk about the first round. What's the first round looking like, and what do you think is the most urgent need that you guys want to try to address in the first round?
So first off, we do get a compensatory round 3 pick for Brandon Sheriff going to the Jaguars. So we do have a round 3 pick in there that's a little older. We need, without question, O-line and DBs. Now, those are number 2, 1 and 2 red areas. Number 3 obviously is quarterback, but they at least have an excuse at quarterback. If they mess up this year, this is his first season, blah, 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 blah. But last year, our offensive line was abysmal. It was scary every play. You hold your breath every play and just like, oh, Lord. Defense is, top 10 defense every year. We start out slow, and then we get to it. Kendall Fuller is he started out the season pretty bad, and I played against him in high school. Lights out, right? Him and Diggs on the same team just murdered us 48-0. Anyways, he's a great cornerback. He, like the rest of the team, heats up towards the middle and towards the end of the season. But he is getting old, just like us. He's 29, 30, getting up there. Didn't mean to put your age out there, but we need cornerback. So I'm looking at if a miracle happens and this boy Christian Gonzalez comes to us at 16.
Okay.
Jump on him real quick. Other possibilities, Witherspoon, obviously, he's number 1 ranked cornerback right now. Joey Porter Jr., he's looking nice. That's what I want for cornerback. If it's not one of those 3, let's look at offensive line, because there are a lot of offensive linemen in this draft that we can take. Paris, I know his first name's Paris, out of Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. I like Skoronski. Big, beefy guys. I do have a problem with Skoronski's arm length, though. With our division, you look at our division and what we have to deal with. A
lot of pass rushers. We
not only have a top 10 defense, but we also face great defenses. We face, Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence twice a year. There's everybody on the Eagles defensive line. Everybody. The Giants have Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, who I listen to players talk.
And Thibodeau.
And Thibodeau. Now, Thibodeau had a strip sack for a touchdown last year against us. So we need big, beefy dudes, thick old boys. We need them more dramatically than we need CB. So I personally would go the boring route. I know everybody, they don't like the O-line pick first round because it's boring. You want to get the skills, the QB, but like what we need right now to protect this cat is O-line.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough, man. I mean, ultimately, every great team in the NFL, the reason that they're great is because of their offensive line execution. When you talk about the Eagles, when you talk about the 49ers, when you talk about even the Cowboys to a certain extent, they've been a very good team for a decent amount of time. Why? Because they've had a solid offensive line. When you talk about the Rams from a few years ago, when they had a really good offensive line, and our offensive line this year was horrible. I mean,
I got a question for Cowboys fans.
I
thought Zeke was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, well,
I thought
He'll get into that Ring of Honor. He'll be on that Ring of Honor up on the stadium, but Hall of Fame.
So, I got some tea though. I have a source that has told me that the Cowboys. Well, I'm sure plenty of teams have already talked to him. The Cowboys have personally talked to Bijan Robinson.
Okay.
From UT, and they told him before they told Zeke that they were going to let him go.
Yeah, well, maybe that means they're hoping that he sandbags some other team's interviews so that he'll be there for them to take him.
He has to be there. He has to make it through a lot of teams that need running backs.
Unless they trade up.
Unless they trade up, which they're not afraid to do. But guess who else who has 2 first-round picks, and they need a running back too? Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles.
If I don't want this boy in my division at all. I don't want no smoke with this kid. You know what? It hurt me. So it hurts me. Funny story. So I went down, to the bars as, maybe I shouldn't say that. I wasn't at the bars. You could edit that out. I was in Austin and I ran into Bijan. And I was like, oh man, you crazy talented, off season, crazy talented, man. Like, he's like, thank you. And I was like, man, you need to come to the Commanders, man. This broke my heart, his answer. You know what his answer was? It broke my heart. He said, who are the Commanders? Bro, Gio and Corey were clowning me for the rest of the night. Yeah. I said, oh, that hurt. So you know what? Stay out of my division.
Yeah.
I don't want no smoke. I'm not worried about my D-line. I'm worried about my linebackers.
Right. Having to chase that dude around, no doubt. So, yeah, man, I think ultimately, it'll be really interesting to see where the draft goes, not only for Jeff's team, but for a lot of teams. But ultimately, this conversation kind of will end it right here with, the reality is that football teams that win, they're made from the inside out. The fancy picks are not always the ones that are most entertaining or the most hyped up when you go to get on Madden. But essentially, they're the teams that win games. And I forgot to even mention the Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions. How can I forget? The reason that they lost the Super Bowl a couple of years ago was because they couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes, And what do they do this year? They run the table. Why? Because they went and they invested in their offensive line. It'll be really interesting to see how they're going to fare because they did lose Orlando Brown this offseason. Nice. So the Bengals kind of fixed up one of their issues, and they're going to be looking to try possibly the Chiefs. But it remains to be seen. The Chiefs finally got their mojo back against the Bengals. Big, great football season to look forward to. Jeff, thank you again, man, for joining online with me. Thank you for holding it down while my internet was playing with me. Really appreciate your time, man. And as always, thank you to the fans and everybody watching. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Share this video if you are friends of mine, friends of Jeff's, or just new to the show. We really appreciate the feedback. Leave your comments in the comment box below. And for Jeff and for Q, man, that's it. We're out. Peace, man.